What's up, team? How are y'all doing this morning? I got good news for the crew. We've got 1 day left. That's it. Congratulations. Y'all deserve it. I know you have weathered the storm, so to speak, of what it means to be in digital learning. So congratulations. I'm really pumped for y'all. And I know you're probably excited too, because that means you probably can sleep in a little bit more on some of these days. And so I am excited about it for you. And we're going to go ahead and get it rolling here shortly. Would someone be able to do this for me? I actually, as I was going through this stuff, I accidentally, I messed up. I kind of erased the messages that we had yesterday with the histogram, and I'll kind of show this to you so that you can kind of look at this here. Let me see here. Boom, boom, coming down here. Share my screen, and we should be good. But I messed up and I kind of deleted it. So if you have a chart there, if you could put it in the GroupMe, that would be awesome. Before we get started, we'll get started here in the next couple minutes here as you're taking out your notes on that. You could send it, that would be awesome. Just take a shot of the picture there. That will help me out, and that way we can get it started. Are we recording? Sure, we're recording today. Perfect, we are good there. Good stuff. Hopefully you can hear me too. I'm trying to work with, sometimes my AirPods don't always connect to my PC, so get that there. Give a little shout out to Jordan, Sydney, Brad, Natalie, Malia. Little shout outs to y'all. Tyler, Ramsey, welcome. Appreciate y'all for showing up this morning. I'm gonna go ahead. Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate you helping me out there. Fantastic. That way we can have an idea of where we're going with this stuff. We're gonna do some review today. First off, we're gonna finish up on the section 1.5. And then from there, we'll go ahead and head into some of the just review stuff that's there. So we will do that. We'll get that rolling here shortly. And we'll have some fun with that there too at the end here. Okay, do this. Okay. We're going to start at about 9:15, just a heads up there. Here. Getting this pulled up here. Okay, we're going to get started here in just a second. Try to get all situated here. All right, we're going to start just a little early here, and that way we can kind of get it started. Um, Remember our last character development of the year, we talked about this idea of toughness. What does it take to break you? I love what Nick Saban said yesterday. I thought it was really, really good. When we think about what does it take to break you, we could look at that in terms of all different types of life. You could think about it in terms of your spiritual growth. Um, you could look at it from a sports standpoint. You could look at it from an academic standpoint, or even just in life when things are thrown your way and you're having to deal with situations that you didn't expect. I think of the seniors this last year or this year, and what's crazy about it is, they thought that they would have maybe a different second semester than what's actually happened. And so there's things that come our way, and so how we respond to that is everything. What I wanted to do real quick is kind of show you something. I think this is really relevant to what we're talking about. And what it is I don't know if you've ever seen this at all, but it's called The Revenant. And what it is it's a trailer with Leonardo DiCaprio about this guy that basically faces all odds, and what his toughness is challenged. So the question is what does it take to break him? And so if you've never seen it, it's really compelling and really, really engaging, especially if you love action. But I want you to check this clip out, and I want you just to think about that idea of, okay, what does it take to break you? We'll get it, and then we'll head into our stuff for today, okay? So check this out. See if I might have to get my... All right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually disconnect my Bluetooth for just a second. Sometimes with the Bluetooth, does not go through. Okay. All right, check this out. Let's see if this will go through. Actually, hold up. I think it's on the wrong. Probably can hear it, but not see it. Let me see here. I'm trying to work on the screen share here. My apology. There we are. So check this out.
The safe thing to do is track a new course back up online.
Then what we gonna do? Sit out there like a bunch of goddamn ducks? You and your half-breed son get to walk on out? I'm talking to you. The proper thing to do would be to finish him off quick. He's to be cared for as long as necessary. I understand. Help! What happened? We did what we had to do. He was very frightened. My boy. And he took him from me, you understand? He's afraid. He knows how far I came to find him.
So the whole thing, what I love that movie, and the reason why is it's extremely compelling, because this one guy, the whole movie is about one guy facing crazy odds. Like, you kind of saw he got attacked by a bear. I don't know if you kind of put two and two together if you've not seen it. His band of brothers, or his colony, so to speak, leaves him because he got mauled by a bear. So he's a greater, like, threat to taking more food, supplies, time. So they leave him in the middle. And so everyone thinks, well, he's going to die there. And, he's already dead. And basically he faces these odds and continually goes after them, right? And so what I thought about that is just in my mind, I always think about like toughness when, we talked about that yesterday. What does it take to break you? And when I look at someone like that, and it's based on true events, is, hey, Emmy or Bennett, hey, Lynch, could you please? Thank you. So when we're talking about things that break you, that's the big thing, is like we're looking at people who have faced these odds, but yet have time and again decided that, you know what, I'm not going to let this break me. And so, again, just something to think about is like, what my own self, and say, okay, what does it take to break me in that specific instance? And so that's my last character development for you guys. I hope you enjoyed those character developments. I really, it was more probably for me, just a reminder for me as well, okay? All right, so with that being said, let's get into our last lesson of the year. We've got 40 minutes, and we're going to get it kicking in terms of what we're talking about here. And then you may have questions in regards to things we need to review and go over. Remember that the test on Tuesday is going to be at 9 o'clock, so make sure you show up for that. And it will not be multiple choice. It's going to be fill in the blank. So just remember that as you prepare for Tuesday, going from there. So that's very important in preparation for what's coming up, okay? All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead into what we were doing yesterday. So if you remember yesterday, we had this graph, and if you don't have the graph, the best thing I could say to do is to just kind of draw this up here, and it's also on it's on the GroupMe, thanks to Natalie here. We talked about this idea. We had the key of, or I'm sorry, the scale, not key, scale that went by tens, right? And we went all the way up until 60 and 70. And then I believe that Natalie's was like way out here at like 190, way out here, okay? But then over here on this side, this was our frequency. I'll put FREQ right now, but this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We could go higher if we wanted to. But what we did was we talked about this idea of histograms. And this was really the third thing that we talked about in terms of distributions with quantitative measurements. And it's really the last one. And so when we looked at this, remember we said this was 10 and leading up to 20. And I think, and I could get the number off just a little bit, 7, 8. I believe it went up to 8-ish, 7 or 8, but that's about right. And then the next one had 3. So there were 3 that fell between 30 and 40. And there were, the next 3 were 1, I believe. So 1, 1, and 1, right? And so this was the graph. Remember, the big thing is to put a key down below. This was the focus of this one was talking about, remember we're talking about the messages, text messages that you sent within yesterday or the day before that. And so from here, we were then going to start talking about what was the distribution shape. So when we looked at this, when it says describe the distribution, we're really looking at 4 things. It's SOCS with context. So just as a review of this, let's go ahead and write this down together. I always establish context first. So if I say when referring to Coach J's Algebra 2 class and text message is sent, we can see, you could write it however you want to. You could establish context in 100 different ways, but that's how I like to do it, just so that there is some consistency on my end on what I'm doing here. So then once I get to that point, I'm going to go ahead and say, we can see here, come back here. We can see the shape. Well, what is the shape? Well, there's a lot of things that are on the right side. You've got this mound right up here, but then it's pulled to that right. So the shape is slightly skewed right. And we use those LY words. Slightly skewed right. There's the shape. with one outlier. Thank you, Natalie, for sending 190 texts right there. There we go. Outlier, which was 190, okay? With the center, I would say the center is probably around, and because it's a histogram, you could kind of approximate. I would say the center is, I would say it's anywhere from like 20 to 30, maybe a little bit further on the right. I would say 20 to 30. So with a center from 20 to 30, and you could actually find the median by taking all of the values before and just, you know, getting down to what is the middle one. And if you have two middles, you average those two together. But we'll just say with the center from 20 to 30 at this point, and then the spread, or in this case, we'll say the range is between 10, which I think it was a little bit higher than that, but we'll just go ahead and say 190 minus 10. So we'll just say when we do that, the range would be 180, okay? So the spread or the range would be 180. And there we are, we did the distribution, we described it, okay? Now, if I tried to change this interval to a smaller number, if possible, what we would have here, and I apologize for my kids, they're screaming there. What we have here is we change the interval to something smaller. Like let's say instead of 10s, we go to 5s. So 0, 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. And let's say that I go ahead and do it that way. Well, what we have now is that we have the data spread out much, much larger. And so if I were to do this, and I were to spread it out, I could do that, but I hope that maybe you could see at this point from what we've already done that it would spread out data and kind of go from there. And so when we talk about that, a smaller scale allows us to see the shape a little clearer, very similar to when we did the split stem, where we ended up having 2 zeros, 2 1s, 2 2s, where we went and did that on the stem and leaf plot. Very, very, very similar, okay? So that's what we're talking about there. Now, if you ask for how did the shape or the distribution change, well, very similar. If we were to do this, we would end up getting, it'd be clearer. And it would really be, in this case, we would see that it would definitely be skewed to the right because of the fact that you have now those outliers that are on the right side. So it's going to be a little clearer. And what we mean by that is it's going to be skewed right. It's going to be more defined as being skewed to the right side. Okay. All right. Here's a question. Do y'all need me to show you number 5? If you want me to show you number 5, I can do that. I just, it's up to what, if y'all understand.
Can you?
Perfect. Okay. Jordan, could you help me then with something? I need help with, because I don't have the data because it deleted on that slide. If you could go back, and it could be Jordan, it doesn't have to be, but on these right here, when we recorded the data, if you could just help me with how many fell within each category, okay? So we'll do that together. So we'll go ahead. This is going to be the frequency. Everything's going to be the same. So we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll go up there. And the scale, make sure you have a key down below. For right now, because of sake of room, I'm going to go ahead and actually, you know what I could do? Hopefully you've got this down here. Let's do this just to make it clear, because I do want, let's see, so this would be frequency. Okay, so this would be 0. We're going to go by 5s now. We're just making the scale smaller, okay? See here, 25, 30, 35, 40. This is going to go way out there. Natalie, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to get yours in there, but that's okay. That's okay for right now. We know it's going to be way out there. 55, 60, 65, and then 70. Now, remember when we do this and we would have a key down below, I just can't fit it down there. You just put Algebra 2, Coach Jay's Algebra 2 text message from the day, you know, whatever day we took it from. So now at this point, we're trying to figure out how many fall from 0 and up to 5? Well, I believe that that is 0, right? And then it's 5 and up to 10. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 text messages would fall in here. And that, I believe that's 0. Could someone tell me what it would be from 10 to 14? Just throw out a number, what that is there. How many fall within 10 to 14? Someone else take 15 and up to 15 and 19.
Is it random?
No, so this was from the data before. So what we're doing is we're using the same data we did yesterday. Does that make sense? So we're just taking that data and now we're just putting it down on a smaller scale. Instead of by tens, we're going to do this by 5. That's it. I just don't have the data to help with seeing it on my end. So how many times was the amount of text message 10 to 14 used within our class yesterday?
I think it was 0. So
Was it 0? Okay. What about 15 to 19?
I think 2.
2? Good. Okay, that's perfect. What about 20 to 24? Want to make sure if someone could help Sydney too, just because I want to make sure we keep moving today. I want to make sure we get to the review stuff. Okay. So if you could help me with that, it'd be awesome. It doesn't have to be Sydney. It could be someone else too.
I got 6.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate you. 6 would be here. Good. What about 25 and to 29?
One.
Good stuff. What about 30 to 34?
Two.
2? Awesome. Good. What about 35 up through 40?
One.
Nice. And what about 40 to 45?
One.
Gotcha. 45 up through 50?
I don't see any.
Gotcha. 50 to 55?
One.
Got it. 55 to 60?
There's 160.
So that would be 0, right? Because what would happen is we would have, in that instance, we would have the 60 would go to the next one, right? So 60 to 65 would be 1. And there we are. So I just wanted to make sure you saw this here. And I know Jordan said she needed it, but you could see the shape a little clearer where you understand that now, as I look at this, this really is skewed to the right because we have all of these numbers that are on the right side that are pulling the data in that direction. Okay. Jordan, does that make sense now?
Yes, it does.
Cool. Appreciate you for saying that, for helping by saying something there. Does anyone have any questions on any of that stuff right now? Okay, let's go to the back side. Let's go to the golden nugget, and then we'll go to the review process here. So let's go ahead to that back side. And what we're going to look at right now is just what are the main points I'm making sure that I remember some of this stuff too, but what are some of the main points that we want to hit on? Okay, my notes. Okay. All right, hopefully you could still see it here. Let's go to the this part on this right here. Okay, so a couple things we want to note here is groups data for cleaner picture, okay? So what I mean by that is we want to group the data together to form a cleaner picture. That's why we would use a histogram. So if you think about it from 0 and up through 5, if we just want to know how many times that existed, this would be a really good idea to be able to do this. Whereas like a dot plot, it's not really grouped together as much as each individual dot is over top of the actual text messages itself. So again, a histogram allows us to be able to kind of group things together there. The second thing is the interval includes, sorry, that should be includes first number, but not the last. What we mean by that is it, remember with this previous one, if it was from 0 to 10, this is going to include 0, but this is not going to include 10 for that bar that's right there, okay? So we don't include the second one, but we do include the first one, okay? The third one is using more intervals shows more detail, which is kind of what we talked about. Using more intervals, really we're lowering the interval, right, from 10 to 5, shows more detail. And really, what is the detail? It's really the shape. So it gives us a cleaner picture of what the shape is, okay? So first thing, just kind of a couple of things just to kind of note. I know a lot of you probably already know this, but just as a heads up, things that we need to make sure we hit on. So how do we do this? Number one, we've got to make sure that we choose equal intervals. Can't have one be worth 5 from 5 and then change it to 10. It's got to be equal. Number two is we make a table. The table down below, which is what we have down on this side. Oh, hold up. I'm sorry. I couldn't draw on it. But this table right down below in relationship to what's up on top when you go into the application side, what happens is the table does help us in order to identify where things go together. For us, we didn't create a table as much as what we did was we created we just listed the data and then we went step by step through it. So we actually skipped that part, but that does help. So when you create a table and you identify how many times it fell within that interval, that will help you to kind of go from there to the histogram, okay? Number 3, draw, label, and scale. Draw, label, and scale. The label is kind of the context, both on the y-axis up and down, which is the frequency, and the x-axis, which is whatever the context is. For us, it was text messages from 2 days ago, okay? And then the scale, make sure that that's the same. And then make sure that when you do it, is you draw bars with no spaces, okay? Draw bars, no spaces. So that's one thing too. This is just a note I'll put up here. You want to draw bars, no spaces. Because if it had spaces, remember now we're talking about a bar graph, which now goes from a quantitative measurement into a categorical, okay? All right, does anyone have any questions on this? Any questions at all? Right on, right on. One thing too, I was gonna actually, I realized I don't think I'm sharing my screen on this side. I'll show this to you just so that maybe you could do it and kind of check a little bit. Let me see here. Let me share this. This will be a little different on this part. Okay. So this right here is just the answer to the application. You might want to just take a picture of it. You can just, maybe you practice it and then you can check it later on. But this was that table I was talking to you about where it's 40 to like leading up to 44. They did an interval by fours. I like to do them like usually by fives, but you could do it by fours. I would say as you look at this data, if you did it by tens, that's going to be way too tight to where it's going to be hard to see the shape. So you want to pick a scale that fits with the data that you're talking about. So if you have data that falls like between 0 and 20, having a scale of 10 really won't show you what is happening there. Maybe you would do it by twos in that situation. So you want to pick a scale that shows the shape as clearly as possible without being too stretched out. So sometimes it's just working through that and seeing what we can get out there, okay? All right, do y'all have any questions? Excellent. This actually will go to our next thing here, which we're gonna go to the Mentimeter side. I want you to kind of go here. And I think it's here. Let's see, I think this one's it. Let me see if I can pull this up. All right, so let's go ahead to these questions here. These we're going to use for our review. So I want you to think about it here. And you're going to answer this. So you're going to go to menti.com and I'll present this here. Hopefully you can see my screen. What is your favorite genre of music? Once you right now, just log into menti.com. Maybe you do it on your phone real quick. And you go to 539279. In fact, I'll do the same. And we're going to do this quick because I want to make sure we have a lot of time to review here. And we're going to answer 3 questions. So I want you to do it really, really fast. So I'm going to pull mine up. And I'm going to go to menti.com. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay. We'll use this for review. Oh man, y'all are gonna overrun the countryside. I hear you. Y'all are a country class though. That's good. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm gonna give you 20 to 30 seconds. Okay. I want everyone to respond because if not, it's gonna be really hard to be able to review with this. Okay. Now it may be really tough because it may be that everyone has country asked. Y'all. I love it. I'll be honest though, y'all have given me some good country music that I've been listening to. I like country music, especially during the summertime. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I like it. I like it. Next question. In the last month, how many purchases have you made on Amazon? Y'all, this is approximate, so this is not exact, but I want you to think about how many purchases you've made on Amazon, and I'm gonna guesstimate a little bit for myself too. Okay, so this is on Amazon Prime now. You know, you got Prime or whatever. See if you can figure out how many purchases that you've made. Around 30. Whoa, that's good stuff right there. I have no idea who answered that, so that's okay. It's okay. That's crazy. 10. If you combine me and my wife, it might be closer to that 30 mark too. Do you think if I thought about it? All right, 27. Yeah, this is good. This is good. All right, so we've got that there. Let's go ahead to the next question in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Last question. Here we go. You have any questions about the chapter? This could be a struggle area that you have. This could be something that you're just like, man, I'm not really getting this. Maybe it could be some suggestions on how I can help you review. I've got some thoughts there trying to help you with this, but if you've got specific questions about the chapter, then go ahead and throw it out there, okay? Questions about the chapter. I'm gonna give you like 20 to 30 seconds, okay? And again, I have no idea who answered or who puts it on there, so no worries. But this will allow me to see where we're at with there. Would you mind too just putting out there, if you don't have any questions, could you just say, I've got none? If you've already finished, that's okay. You push the finish button. If you have no questions, if you could put out there, just because I just want to make sure that I'm addressing everything that I can. Maybe you don't know how to put it down in words. That's okay. Maybe you, if you're willing to do it, you can maybe just put, say it out loud. That's fine too. Okay. Good stuff. This one says, when you're finding the median, how do you do that when using a graph? That's a great question. Well, we can look at that today too. We'll look at that one. It's a good question. Let me see. Can I navigate this? Let's see here. All right, we're gonna get to that one for sure. Don't have any. How do you find the range and median? Great question. We'll take a look at that here. We'll actually look at that from this vantage point here. I'm gonna keep this up, and so if you want to go ahead and continue to think of questions, I'll refer back to this. But the one question that I'm getting is the fact that there's a lot of questions in regards to how do you find the median and range? Well, let me give you the big picture of this chapter first, because it may help you in terms of where we're going. So this may be a good review for you. And then we'll get into some of the data that we found. Hopefully this will take us to the end. So you should see my white, like just a white screen here on this. And what we're gonna do here is now it should be black, but what I want you to look at is we asked two different types of questions: genre of music. And the second question we asked was Amazon purchases. Now, these two questions within a survey, when we take a sample, we're pulling it from our class, right? So that's the context. So both within this will always have context, okay? So this is just an overview of the chapter, though I'm not going to hit everything. On this left side, we have genre of music, which all refers to this idea of categorical data. Say, Coach, why is it categorical? Because it's listed in categories. My favorite music, it cannot be quantified. It's not something that is a value or numerical value there. Whereas my Amazon purchases will end up being quantitative. Now in this, both have what we call distributions. Now distributions is just simply this idea of how we display data, right? That's how we find that. So in this, we have different types here. So on the categorical side, we have this idea of we have a bar chart versus a pie graph, right? Now, I'm not saying that this is everything, but hopefully this helps you to identify the differences here between one side and the other, okay? So the bar chart, remember, has specific bars. Remember, don't always include context. This would be frequency, FREQ. Pie graph would be relative frequency. We're talking about percentages, and we want to make sure that we have a key over here on each side, right? That's important. So key, make sure I put that over on the outside, and make sure you know what that means. So each one should be linked with the other. Now, when we talk about frequency and frequency and relative frequency, both are associated with this, and I'll get to the distributions here in a second. Frequency is count, so how many, like it's just, 5 times. And relative frequency is changing those things to a percent. If you have questions on that, you can ask today or go back and look at some of the previous notes. Now, in terms of the this side, the quantitative, there were 3 ways that we learned to display data. We have a dot plot, we have a stem and leaf, and then we have a histogram. Now, there's more, and but because of time and because of all the craziness, we weren't able to get to all those. But a dot plot, something where we have dots that are over top of the values that are associated with it. Remember, a key down below, and you'll have a number values down below where the dots fall. Stem and leaf, we have an S, we have an L for stem and leaf. This is the first digit. And if I do a split, you can go back and look at it. That means I have 2 zeros, 2 ones, 2 twos, 2 threes. And if it's back to back, that means I have a leaf on the left side and the right side, and comparing 2 different things with the stem falling right in the middle. Make sure too you have a key, okay? And then the histogram is what we did today. You have this, except there's no gaps, and it goes from the value all the way leading up to whatever that next value is. So it's 0 up to 5, but not including 5, okay? Those are the 3 things in terms of quantitative. Now, when we describe a categorical, usually we just talk about trends. So you say trends, I mean, like, basically you would say, 80% of individuals like country music. That's what we're talking about, right? Like, you just basically give what's happening with the context that's there. Again, always coming back to context. Whereas over here on the quantitative side, we talk about SOCS, which is shape, outliers, center, and spread. Now with spread, we talk about that as we say it's the range. For center, we use mean or median, okay? For outliers, as far as right now is concerned, we just see, is there a data point away from everyone else? So I'm trying to think, there is a rule for this, but we didn't get that far. So we just say data point that's far away. You could, I don't have a room, but data point that's far away. And then shape would be either skewed or approximately normal. Now, one other thing about shape that I didn't mention is this idea of how many peaks that we have. If you see that, that might be something just to kind of remember here. So like, remember in this one, this has like 1 peak. So we just say single peak, meaning that the high point that's there. Now, sometimes there may be, and I'm adding this in, but a second peak. So we would just say 2 peaks. So they're kind of like, if you think about a valley and then it comes back up, that's what we're talking about. So when we talk about shape, I didn't really talk about this, but we also can talk about the peak. So it's either single or double peaked, or there's 2 peaks or whatever. You could say that a bunch of different ways, okay? Now, that's not everything, but that may help you in kind of having a neat flow of the types of distributions and kind of everything that's there. Does anyone have any questions in regards to this part right here before I get to some of the specific questions? Cool. All right, let's go ahead to this. I'm hoping this is helpful to you. We'll go into the mean and median. So when I think about this next part of the 2 questions that are being asked here, or the 2 questions that I asked, the questions asked here are, and I have a couple other questions, so we'll get here. Boom, right here on this side. Okay, perfect. Okay, so when we get to this part, let's see, can I go up? Oh, there we are. So when I get to the question of the first one, what's your favorite type of music, right? Genre of music. What we have here is this is a categorical response. So if I on a test said, okay, so here's the information, here's what the responses were. If I said create a graph that displays this data, you could either go down the bar graph or the pie chart. Now, if I did the bar graph, I could do just the frequency. And what I would do is, maybe I could go ahead. Let me actually try this. Let me try this here. Sorry, I'm gonna. I'm having some technical difficulties here. Let's see. There we go. There we go. We go here. I'm gonna pull both these up so I can actually write and do this at the same time. Perfect. All right, hopefully you can see both of those there. So if I were to do the country music one, what I could do is do a bar graph or a pie chart. But if I ended up doing the bar graph, what I could do is just put down the 3 responses. So we have country, we have rap, and we have worship. And so because of that, we have these 3. Because it's categorical, we would just put the context down below. We'd say responses of favorite genre from Coach Jay's Algebra 2 class. And then over here, we put frequency, just the number that did respond, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then after this, what we can do is we can go ahead and we can identify the countryside as being 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can go 3, 4, 5, 6, and we create a bar. For rap, there would only be 1. And for worship, we have 2, okay? All right, and that right there, because we have gaps, that tells me we know that that's that categorical side. Now, you could also create a pie chart and create the percentages. So we had 9 total responses, with 2 being worship, 1 being rap, and 6 being country. So on the country side, what you could do, so you had 6 out of 9, that means 66% of this is going to end up being country. So we can kind of do that there. And then you would then have, what would it be like? Just above, or just, just above 10%. So you would just make like a little one, and that would be for rap, and you could, shade it differently and then keep one blank. But then you just need that key on the other side. So that would be categorical. In terms of the next question, which would be the next one of last month, how many purchases have you made? This is where you would go towards the quantitative side. Now, again, whether you do a dot plot, a histogram, a stem and leaf is completely up to you. I would go ahead and think about what would display this data the best. I would probably say that a histogram would, because then you could do it maybe by 4s or by 5s. So let's say we do it by 5. So if I did this histogram, you would have your key down below. You go from 0 to 5 to 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. Again, remembering that there's a key down there. Make sure you put that there. You'll write frequency on this side. And then from here, with 0 leading up to 5 would be 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe. 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then 5 leading up to 10 would be 1. The 10 would fall on the next one. So we'd have 1, 2, I think 2. I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. That's right. Okay. And 27 and 30 are the last ones. So 27 would fall here, and 30 would actually go here for 30 to 35. So that would be the graph there for a histogram, which obviously is right skewed, and you could talk about that and what that looks like. But that would be the difference between a quantitative versus a categorical. Now, with that being said, I think this leads into our last few questions here, unless you all have some more. And by the way, you could head out whenever, because I know that I've held y'all back a little bit here with time. Yeah, so most of them are on there. I think I missed Monday, but I believe that everything else is up there. So you could go on the hub over the last 2 weeks and check those out. Okay. Let's go to the next question. When you're finding the median, how do you do that when using a graph? That's a great question. Well, a dot plot is actually easy, because if you did the dot plot, if you remember, I could just cross off one on either side and then get to the middle. Same with the stem and leaf. So these two are actually really easy. And I can't actually find the median range or anything on categorical. That's why we just talk about the trends that's there. We talk about what we see, what percentage fell here and there. 66% of individuals like country music and Coach Jay's Honors Algebra 2. That's what we're talking about. But with quantitative, when we go into the histogram, it does become a little bit tougher. Let's say I didn't have any of the data here, but I only had a histogram. I could go ahead and say, okay, there's one data point that's from 30 to 35, whereas over here, there's 6 of them. Well, that becomes tough, because right here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 data points and 5 data points, right? And there's 6 on this side. So you don't know unless I gave you the data, but we're going to pretend based on this, we don't know what these data points are. We just know it's between 0 and 5, and that it occurred 6 times. So if that happens, what you can say is that the median is somewhere between 0 and 5. It means that if I took it from either side and we're trying to find that middle value, and if there's 9 total data points that were, calculated, 9 or 10, then we would go ahead and just do the best we can. But when we describe it, we could just say that the median is somewhere between 0 to 5. But again, on a stem and leaf and dot plot, you could just cancel values as you go until you get somewhere in the middle, and then you could circle whatever point is in the middle. That is median. And then in terms of average, in terms of the mean that's there, you could take all of these points, add them up, divide by the total number like you would normally do. But within a histogram, that can be tough. And so very similar to that, you're trying to find where's the average that's there. And so I would say for this one, the average is probably going to be between 5 and 10, somewhere in here. So you could approximate kind of where that's at. But if it was something like this, I would go ahead and say, let's talk about the median on that. Does anyone have questions on that piece? If you do, let me know. All right, no questions there. Let me see here. How do you find the range? Well, we talked about the median. The range is always the max to the min. So if you had to get a histogram where you're not really sure what the high value is, but you just know that it's between 30 and 35 and 0 to 5, take the low and then the highest value. So you could say that the range would be 35 minus 0. So you would just say that the range is somewhere around 35, because you took the highest high and the lowest low, and then you could go ahead and say that the spread is about, or the range is about 35 on that. All right, let's go to the next one here. Last question. How do you find the relative frequency? That's a great question. So the relative frequency is just the count. So if there's 6 here, there's 1 here, there's 2 here, we can go ahead and say, okay, what percent is associated to each? Well, it'd be 6 out of 9. So that's why this, if I change this frequency to relative frequency, we're talking about now the percentages that are there. So we just say 6 over 9. So the count, the frequency is 6, but the relative frequency is 67%. This one is 1 over 9. So this is going to be, 1 over 9? I forgot. What is 1 over 9? Is that like 13%? I'll get to that in a second. Then this is 2 over 9. That's there. This is what, 26%? 26. It's a little high. Let me get to it. see what we've got here. So I'm going to pull that up just so you can kind of see. So 1 divided by 9 is, 11%. So 11% would be here, and about 22% is here. And so when I add all of these up, they should be very close to 100%, if not exactly. And so depending on how I round. So that would make the percentages here associated to the pie chart if I were to do that on that specific one. Okay. All right, very good. Any other questions that y'all have? I know that time is out, and I apologize for taking a little bit longer. I hope this was helpful for you in review, but do y'all have any questions for me on anything?
Yeah, I have a question. So, are you going to be doing review days the next 2 days before the test on Tuesday?
I wasn't planning on it, Jordan. I'm not saying that I wouldn't at all. I'm not doing anything official for sure. So I'm not like saying that, hey, this is the time. In large part because if it was like a exam review, I would probably say absolutely. But today really worked as the test review, was kind of the game plan for today. I'll ask you, what do you feel like you maybe need to review in that way? Or maybe a better question of, what would you need in order to help you for Tuesday?
I think I'm just going to do whatever question, like the person who asked the question, and just go back and watch some videos. Because I feel like I just need a refreshment on a lot of it.
Absolutely. Is it, do you feel like the content's hard?
Sorry, I think I cut out or you cut out.
No, that's okay. Do you feel like the content's hard on this?
Yeah, I feel like not only is it like a lot to remember how to do it all, but just like to put it into everything. Like, I feel like I could figure it out, but like knowing the what am I trying to say? Like the vocab and stuff is hard.
No doubt. I would say, okay, so I will tell you the way that the questions will be, how the questions will be taken for this test is if you go back to the original. So this is like chapter 11, there's 5 sections, right? This right here on this slide is really, really good in terms of understanding the big picture. But if you go back to these specific questions, like when you go through the application side, as you go through, the applications will be phenomenal in terms of a review for you. Does that make sense? So like, if you go through and you think, what I would do is if I was y'all, I would take the application and I would use that as a practice test. So I would literally use the application 1.1 to 1.5 and go, because you're going to get bonus points for it anyway. You're going to get 10 bonus points on this next test for just doing them. So you're going to, why not do them anyway? And so when you do them, go on there and take it like it's a test. Once you're done, then go ahead and, check it. And in fact, you know what I could do, because you don't have the answers for that? I'll give you the answers so you can check it in relationship to that, okay? And then once you check the answers from there, then you could understand, okay, this section is what I struggle with. This section is what I'm good with. And you'll be able to kind of have a better understanding of, oh man, I'm struggling with stem and leaf, but maybe I feel better on the dot plot side. Does that make sense, Jordan?
Yes, it does.
Let me do this, because let me do this. Let me stop screen share. Okay. Let me pull this up, okay? Let me see here. I'm going to pull up every answer for the application side. It may take a second, and I apologize for it taking a second. But and if you got to go and you want to watch this video later, you can. It's totally up to y'all. But what I will do is I'll at least show them on my screen here, so that way there we go. and that way you can kind of check it out. Jordan, does that make sense? Does that help you a little bit?
Yes, it does.
And you'll have the you'll be able to use your notes too. I will allow you to do that, like I have in the
Okay.
past. So like, yeah, the vocab is kind of tricky. The big thing is, how do I apply that? Because you'll have it in case, you know, if you forget and you've taken notes, you should be fine on that piece.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Getting this here. Does anyone else have any other questions at all? I don't even know who's on here, so it could be. Emily, do you have any questions at all?
No, sir.
Cool. Do you have any other classes today?
Yes, I have language in a
Ooh.
few minutes.
But then you're done? That's nice.
Yes.
It's good. Are you glad to be done with all the digital learning stuff? I think I was talking to myself. Good stuff. I'm gonna pull this up here and we'll be good to go. Appreciate y'all. So glad and grateful that you know, y'all did a phenomenal job with this digital learning. The grades went up, just positive things there. My challenge to you is just continue to be diligent, finishing off the year in all your classes. And if you have questions, please make sure you shoot me a text or something, because even though I don't have anything official, that doesn't necessarily mean I won't help or even do a session if you needed it. So go ahead and do that here. But these at the end on this section hopefully will help you with any questions you have in regards to the application side. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull these up. That way you can check them out if you in fact needed some help with them. Okay. So we're gonna, perfect. I think this is my last one. Okay, let me share my screen and we should be good to go. All right, let me show this one first. I think they're out of order a little bit. So if you look at the 1.2, I apologize for that. But if you scroll down to the bottom here, this is the application side. So here's the answers for that right here. So you've got that. You can maybe take screenshots or use that here. That's the first one. Second one, which is really the first one we did, second one I'm showing you. This is the answers for this one. So you can go ahead and check that out too on what that might look like. Some things we talked about, individuals and variables, that might be good just to look over and look through. So at the beginning there. This next section, I believe, was 1.2. I believe it was 1.2. This is the application here of a stem and leaf. I actually think it was 1.4. My fault. 1.4 was that one there. This is 1.3. So if you look at this one, 1.3, you can check that one out. This is the answer here. Okay. And then finally, with this one, it's 1.5. This is the one we did today, finished up on. And so check that one out. These are really good in terms of your review process for the test. If you've got questions, shoot me a text, put it on GroupMe, and we'll go from there. But grateful for y'all. Thankful for you being a part of the class this year. And let's finish off strong with this last test, and we'll rock and roll. Other than that, y'all have a phenomenal day today, and we'll see y'all around.